Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Okay, for some reason it says 75. Why? 76 now. There we go. Should change maybe. Evening Pure, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hey Miles, CMF, Comatose, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good day, Miles. Mike, good to see you. How you doing, brother? How you been? Evening, Miles and CMF, good to see you as well. Joe, how you doing? How you been? Crypto Summit was a whole lot of nothing. It wasn't actually. It was a whole lot of something, but most people essentially missed the mark on the Crypto Summit. I'll be honest, on the Crypto Summit, a lot of people missed the mark. The Crypto Summit was not about major announcements of purchases on cryptocurrencies. It was more on the basis of regulations and policies, which is what I said also yesterday on yesterday's live, and the live before that, and the live before that. I've always just been saying the Crypto Summit is all about essentially policies and regulations, which is exactly what it was about, which we're going to talk about on tonight's live as well. But everybody missed the mark. Everybody thought Trump was going to come out and say he's going to purchase 10,000, 10 trillion or 10 billion Bitcoins and 10 billion XRPs and 10 billion Solanos. And that was never going to be the case in any sort of a way. What actually happened inside the White House Summit was, we'll do the intro disclaimer and I'll tell you what actually happened. But Countess, don't miss the mark. Even the Miles, the CMF, Pierce, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? As I said yesterday, always look at the crypto markets from a different lens. Even Miles and CMF, Manny, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? What's up, Miles? What's up, CMF? Kerry, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good, thanks. Watching the world wake up to crypto. The dawn of crypto will happen, and more trust will come. Facts, just because of that White House Summit. Hi, Miles and CMF. Dennis, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hello, Miles. Why is there so much manipulation? I'll get into that as well once we start doing. Johnny, good to see you. Though. Once we do the intro and disclaimer. It seems like an influencer just got hacked for a large amount of crypto. That's not good. Sorry for the influencer that happened to, essentially. That's not good when anybody gets essentially compromised. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Funky brother, good to see you. How you doing? How you been, brother? My brother, are you still bullish on XRP? Can we still see double digits this year? Thank you. Abel, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Abel, for future reference, I'm always going to be bullish on XRP 1 billion%. Always. I'm 1 billion% always going to be bullish on XRP for future reference. Also, double digits this year, consider variable change, anything's possible. We have to get the first screen, we have to get the 3 green lights before essentially the price movements. Good evening, Miles and all CMF. How comes we didn't get the 10,000 XRP today? Yeah, a lot of people were expecting Trump to come out and say he's going to purchase tremendous amounts of cryptocurrencies today, and that was honestly never going to be the case. Nobody was realistic about the crypto summit. But I'll tell you regarding the manipulation as well. The institutions, the hedge funds, the ones I was talking about yesterday, how the market instantly goes green or the market instantly goes red. I'll tell you. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? So, hi, Miles. Looking forward to another great live. Let's go, Addy. How you doing? Perfect time because I'm about to do the intro. Welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family, and my name is Miles. I host this live that you're watching right now. And essentially, I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And we also do Q&As on this live as well, which means if you do have any questions, don't be shy, put them down inside the comment section. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So, let's go inside the comment section before we talk about anything. Let's go inside the comment section first, because I'm guessing what everybody's thinking about inside the comment section is the first news we're going to be covering on tonight's live, which is regarding the US Crypto House Summit, which a lot of people on the US House Crypto Summit missed the mark. Because the US House Crypto Summit was not about Trump coming out and announcing he's going to buy $10 billion of Bitcoin and $10 billion of XRP and $10 billion of Solana or Cardano. It was never going to be about that. On yesterday's live, the live before that, the live before that, the live before that, every single live that I've done, I've been telling people the Crypto Summit is all about regulations and policies. It was never about announcements of essentially major purchases any sort of a way. Now, the reason why I say a lot of people missed the mark, essentially, on the White House Crypto Summit is because what Trump announced in the White House, essentially in the White House Crypto Summit, was all the things that we wanted. For 4 years, the crypto space wanted essentially transparency. We wanted legal fairness. We wanted the stifleness to stop. We wanted the banks to stop doing Operation Choke Point 2.0. All these things that were mentioned in the White House Crypto Summit is all the things we've been essentially wanting inside the crypto space for the past 4 years. And now they get mentioned by the most powerful person on the planet, the United States president, in the White House, the first ever crypto summit. He mentions that the US will become capital of cryptocurrencies. We will stop the essentially debanking situations. We will open up to legal fairness when it comes to cryptocurrencies. These are all the things that we've been fighting for inside the crypto space to have. And then when it gets mentioned by the White House, essentially the US president, people are like, oh, I was expecting more. What did the last administration do for you? Nothing. The last administration we had for the past 4 years, they did nothing for the crypto space. And Trump comes in, signs an executive order for cryptocurrencies to become the capital of the United States of America, signs an executive order for a crypto reserve stockpile, essentially gets rid of Gary Gensler, makes the SEC pro-crypto, makes the SEC drop cases back to back, gets the CFTC to stop hindering crypto policy, essentially cryptocurrency companies, and dropping their cases and their enforcement actions, removes the FDIC chairman essentially to make them pro-crypto, to stop the debanking situation on cryptocurrencies. There is so much positivity that Trump has done. And he mentioned these positivities at this essentially White House Crypto Summit, but everybody missed the park. Everybody genuinely missed the ball. The majority of people missed the ball because for some odd reason, people wanted Hollywood once again. And then instead they got essentially a dose of reality. Trump mentioned things that we wanted in the past 4 years inside the White House with crypto executives that were being sued by the SEC. That's incredible news. That's incredibly bullish. Now, the market swings on the downside. Now, the market swing on the downside, was that the retail section losing interest and dumping on the market space? No. It was the institutions, the hedge funds, though, essentially what I was explaining to everybody yesterday. Somebody asked me a question yesterday on this live and said, Miles, why does the market suddenly go red like this or suddenly goes green like this, everything at the same time? Because I said the same investors of hedge funds and essentially hedge funds, Wall Street, institutions, it's the same investors. They can make the market flip from red to green whenever they want. All the markets, the entire market. These institutions, these hedge funds, these Wall Street heads knew what the meeting was going to be about. They knew the meeting was going to be about regulations and policies and all that. And that's extremely positive because what do institutions need? Regulations to enter the crypto space. Banks need regulations to enter the crypto space, which is what essentially Trump mentioned. This is why it's incredibly bullish for the institutions and the banks and institutions, essentially for Wall Street. So why did the banks and essentially Wall Street and essentially the hedge funds manipulate the market space to go on a downswing, open up space? And the public eat it up. The retail section just ate it up and said, yeah, it was nothing. Trump coming out and telling everybody legal fairness. Who cares about that inside the crypto space? Debanking coming to an end. Who cares about that inside the crypto space? The SEC no longer essentially stifling cryptocurrencies. Who cares about that inside the crypto space? This is what the banks and hedge funds and institutions made you think about when they dropped the market on you for a slight bit of manipulation. But we wanted all those things in the last 4 years, and now we get them, and people are like, oh, who cares? It's just ridiculous. The level of expectation people have And what this man has done for the crypto space is tremendous. And nobody puts enough respect on what Trump has achieved so far. Honestly, the biggest market space in the world has a crypto reserve. The biggest market space in the world is going to become the capital of cryptocurrencies. The companies that were being sued were sitting next to Donald Trump, the US president. The companies that were being sued by the SEC, talking about legal fairness, essentially openness, no more debanking situation. These are all the things we wanted. But for some reason, when it gets mentioned, who cares? And then the institutions, the hedge funds and so on, that knew about all the regulations policies Trump was going to be announcing, 100% they knew, dump the market space, the retail section, go, yeah, I mean, this is bad. This is very bad. No, it isn't. You've got to realize the bigger picture. I said to people, stop looking at the tip of your nose and look beyond that. And for everybody out there that still says Trump hasn't achieved anything for the crypto space and he's only bringing negativity to the crypto space, really, Trump is only bringing negativity to the crypto space? He's only dumping on the market space? Coming from the man who got rid of Gary Gensler, coming from the man who made the SEC drop cases back to back, coming from the man who stopped debanking situations by the FDIC, coming from the man who made the United States the capital of cryptocurrencies, coming from the man that made the United States have a crypto reserve. All these are negative. Of course they are. Honestly, people need to put a lot more respect on what Trump has achieved in a short span of time compared to what the last administration did, which is absolutely nothing. So people genuinely need to lower their expectations, genuinely, because if you were expecting Trump to come out and say 10,000, I'm going to purchase $10 trillion of XRP, $10 trillion of Bitcoin and so on at the crypto reserve, you are lost. I said to everyone for the past 4 days, the US House Crypto Summit was only going to be about policies and regulations, which is exactly what it was about. It was about policies and regulations. That is all, which is things we need to move on to the next step. And the next step being institutional money, which means we're just about to be getting regulations, essentially open fairness, no more deep banking, so we can move on to the institutional money. And the institutions know this. They knew it before Trump even made the announcement. The institutions 1 billion% knew before Trump even made the announcement. That's why they dropped the market space like that on everybody. And everybody goes, yeah, what Trump did was bad. Because the institutions want you to believe that the White House Crypto Summit was a bad thing. It was nothing. They want you to believe that. But in reality, it's what we need to move on to the next step. So stop essentially getting essentially distracted by some random noises inside the market space. Genuinely. Because the amount of people that missed the point of the White House Crypto Summit, the biggest market space in the world, having a crypto summit in the White House, with Brad, essentially someone that's been sued by the SEC for the longest time, with Coinbase, who's been sued by the SEC, with the two brothers that have been sued by the CFTC and the SEC. So this is essentially extremely bullish. Don't miss the point. Having a White House crypto summit was extremely bullish. Having the United States president come out on the most powerful stage and tell banks and institutions essentially what's about to happen next, and tell banks stop debanking crypto companies, that's extremely bullish. He's the most powerful voice in the world right now. So a lot of people miss the point on that. The things he mentioned is the things we wanted for the past 4 years. And we just got them. So be grateful. Because this is going to set us up for the next step. And the next step being institutional money. Without regulations, without openness when it comes to legals, or without essentially debanking situations stopping, we can't move on to the next step, which is what the things we'll mention on. So genuinely, a lot of people missed the ball. A lot of people got essentially brainwashed by institutions dropping the market space on them. Genuinely. Too many people missed the point of this White House Crypto Summit. I've been saying for the past 4 years, for the past 4 days, I've been saying the White House Crypto Summit is about regulations and policies, not about Trump coming out and saying he wants to buy $10 trillion of Bitcoin or XRP or essentially HBAR or essentially Solana or Cardano or whatever. It was never going to be about that. It was about things that we need, which are regulations. If you want to stop manipulation inside the crypto space, are you tired of the whales manipulating the market space? Are you tired of the institutions, the hedge funds keep on manipulating the market space? It's because we don't have regulations. So what Trump mentioned in the White House is we're getting regulations. We're getting policies to stop the manipulation. Now, manipulation will always be there, but it will be a lot more less under regulations. So he mentioned things we wanted for the past 4 years. And people are like, oh, it was nothing. It was everything. So don't get distracted by the noise. And it wasn't the retail section dropping the market space to make everybody think it was nothing. It was the whales. It was essentially the institutions. It was Wall Street. The biggest hedge funds. They're all inside the market space. And that is why you see the market space suddenly go from red to green, red, green. Across the entire board. Well, you think the retail section is that coordinated to make the entire market space go red altogether? Or green, essentially altogether? The retail section is not coordinated to pull that maneuver off. So the institutions, the hedge funds and so on, they knew what the meeting was going to be about. They knew what was going to be mentioned. They manipulated the market space to make everybody think it was no big deal, but it was everything. So stop getting distracted. I said to everybody yesterday as well, look at the market space from a different lens. Always look at the market space from a different perspective. Don't look at it from everybody else's perspective. You got to realize what was mentioned was incredibly bullish for everyone. So stop looking at price point, because the people that are controlling the market space are the ones controlling the price right now due to having no regulations. But that meeting was extremely bullish, and too many people missed the point on that house, on that White House summit. Too many people missed the point. Regulations will be in place within months. Let's go pure. Pretty much, which is exactly what we need. Which is exactly what was mentioned. Hi, Miles. G, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? The Crypto Summit is essentially a private meeting. What people saw was the faces of all the key players attending the meeting. Morning, Miles and CMF. Shelly, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Greetings, Miles and CMF. Lena, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Why he come out last week that XRP, Solana, ADA will be added to the reserve and now just BTC? Incorrect. Okay. There is misinformation going around essentially regarding what's added to the crypto reserve. It's still XRP, Solana, Cardano, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. It hasn't changed. The media keeps on calling it a Bitcoin reserve, and in reality, it's just a crypto stockpile. Now, the new one he signed, it says Bitcoin reserve and crypto stockpile. But it's not Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Cardano. It's still the same portfolio. It hasn't changed. So, Orvan, someone's spreading misinformation and you're believing that misinformation. The crypto reserve for the United States of America is still XRP, Solana, Cardano, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. It hasn't changed. The second executive order he signed is just titled Bitcoin Essential Reserves and Crypto Stockpile, which is the XRP, Solana, and Cardano cards. So it still hasn't changed. It's still the same portfolio. Don't get essentially tracked into this misinformation. Hi, Miles of CMF. LinkedIn, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? The crypto space now have a seat at the table. This is a landmark day, and the future will be bright. Facts. Let's go pure. Hi, Miles. Good to see you. Yama, how you doing? How you been? I see where you're coming from. However, personally, I think he led us into false sense of what was coming when he mentioned the altcoins and the tweets, and nothing about XRP, only BTC, BTC, BTC. Buy the rumor and sell the news. That's what happened today. And I think we're all expecting the price at least to go a bit higher, yet it dumped on us. Take a guess of who's controlling the market space right now due to no regulations. We need regulations. Trump is the man to bring regulations in to stop the institutions and banks and hedge funds from manipulating the market space. He's the man to bring it in. I honestly didn't essentially think we found out anything new, to be honest, that we didn't know already, apart from they will be using seized Bitcoins as a part of it. Well, he mentioned things that we thought was going to be mentioned, and he mentioned it on the stage in the White House with the executives. It's positive, I agree. Just a bit disappointed, to be honest. I'm subscribing from this Trump. Okay. Levels, you were never following me in the first place. Just for coming on here saying I'm a Trump supporter, and then you're saying I'm unsubscribing. You were never following me in the first place to be unsubscribing me. Preach, brother. Let's go, Curtis Hill. I think everything is going well in the issue. I assume his holders are tired and want to buy a yacht. I get that. Good evening, Miles. How are you, brother? I'm doing great, Cali. Good to see you. So how you doing? Why mention it in then a tweet beforehand? Maybe he should have sent the tweet prior. Maybe it could have been done afterwards, like next week instead of beforehand. What was the point of Trump calling all the CEOs of these companies as nobody spoke out? Trump could have just tweeted this news. Well, the CEOs had an option, essentially, the CEOs essentially that were next to Trump, they had the option to talk. Trump gave the mic to every single one of them to talk. Some of them decided to stay quiet. It was their option to talk or not. Trump did give the mic to them. Towards the end of the White House Crypto Summit, he said, does anybody want to, chime in, give their opinions? It was their choice to stay quiet or speak up. Now, some people are saying, why didn't Brad speak up next to essentially in the White House Crypto Summit? Why didn't Brad, the CEO of Ripple, speak up? Well, the reason why Brad couldn't speak up is because he's still going through legal proceedings back and forward. Anything he says could maybe be held against him. It's difficult for Brad to be able to speak up because he's still going with battling the SEC. Thanks, Miles. You remind us of reality while crypto Twitter makes us delusional. Facts. Let's go, LinkedIn. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? It is bullish, I agree, but I think he was wrong to make that tweet beforehand. The president also gave us a tentative date of August. That's true. Miles, I think we are all a bit nervous that most of us, our portfolios are going down to almost nothing again. It's all going down slowly. Don't worry, it's not. Miles, saluting you from your alternative perspective, highly needed. Let's go, proper. Good evening, Miles and CMF, FXRP. Good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Everyone expect for Michael Saylor, he didn't have the option. Yeah, basically. Michael Saylor was not doing too good at that meeting. Michael Saylor realized why you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket. Is what Michael Saylor essentially realized at the White House Crypto Summit, that you should not be having all your eggs on one basket. But let's see how that goes for him. Now, on the topic of the Crypto Summit that happened today. This is essentially the perspective you should have. Trump's Crypto Summit sets agenda for US to pivot. President Donald Trump assured the crypto essentially sector that it's on new grounds in a first ever summit at the essentially White House that has essentially happened today, illustrating that what the industry suspected, it's got friends at entry levels in Washington. I know that many of you have been fighting for years for this, and it's an honor to be with you at the White House, Trump said, as the White House meeting got underway. In his brief statement, Trump said he would end his proceedings, war on crypto, praised lawmakers' legislative efforts, and discussed his new Bitcoin reserves. Trump mentioning essentially stopping the war on crypto is the things that he said is the things we wanted to hear for the past 4 years. And now they get mentioned, people are not happy about it. It's odd. Regulators strong essentially on banks. I mean, they really did. They strong on banks into closing the accounts of crypto businesses. This is what Trump has been said, essentially, crypto businesses and entrepreneurs, effectively blocking some money transfers to and from exchanges. And they weaponized governments against entire industries, Trump said. But I know the feeling also maybe better than you do. All of that will soon be over, and we are ending Operation Choke Point 2.0, which is an operation we wanted to be ended a long time ago by the Biden administration, but they couldn't do anything for us. Trump said he wanted to sign stablecoin legislations before Congress breaks for the August essential recess. And I also want to express my strong support for the efforts of lawmakers in Congress as they work on bills to provide regulatory essentially certainty for dollar-backed stablecoins and the digital asset market, he said. They're working very hard essentially on that, and this is a tremendous opportunity for economic growth and innovation in our financial sector, and a really really long way to go. Referring to this, to his essentially Thursday executive order creating the Bitcoin reserve and crypto stockpile, Trump said it was foolish that the federal government had already sold so much of their Bitcoins as you seized Bitcoin. And the federal government is already among the largest holders of Bitcoin. As you know, really one of the largest holders in the world, with as many as essentially 200,000 Bitcoins obtained via civil laws and various essentially other forms of law, including enforcements and actions. He said these existing holdings will form the foundation essentially of the new reserves. From this day on, America will follow the rule that every Bitcoiner knows very well. Never sell your Bitcoin, he said, Trump. With essentially sways of the industry were represented by the guest list, which included top executives of Coinbase, Ripple, Kraken, Gemini, Chainlink, Robinhood, and many others, representing the most formal-looking crypto group since the essentially black tie ball celebrating Trump's election victory. Tyler and Cameron, essentially the brothers of Gemini, and Sergio, the essentially of Chainlink, were among those who spoke during the live stream portion of the summit. A senior White House official further clarified the administration's position on its Bitcoin reserves and crypto stockpile. The official said that the US government has estimated 200,000 Bitcoins to start with the reserves and will be conducting an audit to figure out the specific holdings. Any non-essentially Bitcoin seizures will be maintained in other stockpiles. No new money will be put into the new essentially Bitcoin assets, and any active future investments in Bitcoin will have to be worked out in a way that doesn't use taxpayer dollars, the official said. This is what essentially Michael Saylor was not happy about, but I said this was going to happen. The afternoon summit was largely meant to set the tone from the administration, which has sought to quickly put digital assets on a friendlier footing that the industry experienced during the administration, essentially crypto summit that we saw today. On that, essentially on the topic of the crypto summit, continuing further on of setting the tone, the OCC, for example, today, after Trump's speech at the crypto summit, with the executives and CEOs and so on, and the essentially members of the governmental departments, which was the SEC, CFTC, and so on, laying out the footwork, laying out how they're going to no longer essentially use their political powers to stop crypto companies from working with banks and so on. The OCC, straight after that event, the OCC says banks can engage with crypto custody and certain stablecoin activities. Again, this is what's happening behind the scenes, which a lot of people, I'm saying, this is why I say a lot of people miss the point on the whole White House crypto summit. This is what's happening behind the scenes straight after the White House summit, where the OCC is telling essentially banks they can now start using, slowly working with cryptocurrencies for crypto custody services and essentially certain stablecoins. The federally regulated essentially banks can now engage in a range of cryptocurrency activities without prior approvals. The Office essentially of Currencies, the OCC, said in a new statement, in a letter and a statement. In the new letter, the OCC clarified that national banks and federal saving associations can legally provide crypto custody, conduct certain stablecoin related activities, and run nodes. The OCC expects banks to have the same strong risk management controls in place to support essentially novel bank activities as they do for traditional ones, said acting essentially the OCC head. Today's actions will reduce the burden on banks to engage in crypto-related activities. Today's actions will reduce the burden on banks to engage with crypto-related activities and ensure that these banks and activities are treated consistently by the OCC, regardless of their underlying essentially technology. As a part of this new essentially letter, the OCC withdrew a statement it made back in 2023 on liquidity risk for banks from crypto, suggesting a rollback of prior concerns and the industry's impact on financial stability. The OCC back in 2023 under the Biden administration was against cryptocurrencies. The head of the OCC was against cryptocurrencies and didn't see the point in any sort of a way, and essentially regarding liquidity crisis and so on, said banks should not be working crypto companies. You fast forward to 2025 under a Trump administration, the OCC is coming out now and saying banks can start essentially holding crypto assets, can start trading crypto assets, some banks, federal legal banks. This happened straight after the crypto summit at the White House, because Trump gave pretty much a green light to everybody to, let's wrap this up. Trump org lawsuit promises to unmask deeper debanking crisis. Custodians. Catalan essentially long. Custodia Bank founder Catalin Long hopes a new lawsuit would essentially unearth more details on debanking under former President Joe Biden's regime. The Trump organization has sued Capital One Bank for allegedly closing 300 bank accounts in 2021 without cause, as tech bigwigs and crypto lenders laminated the debanking crisis during previous administrations. Long's Custodian Bank and other essentially top crypto voices like Castle Island Ventures partner Nick Carter have pointed essentially to Operation Choke Point 2.0, a coordinated essentially effort by regulators, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporations, to block digital assets and companies from banking services. So not only has the OCC just given a green light to some banks to slowly start using crypto assets and hold crypto assets straight after the White House Crypto Summit by Donald Trump, but also there are suings now going on with anybody that was involved with Operation Choke Point 2.0. Silicon Valley essentially businesses describe similar circumstances, attributing to the pattern to political targeting and a war against certain tech-heavy firms. The actions taken by Capital One and other essentially major financial institutions represent a dangerous precedent that could threaten the operations of countless businesses across the nation, particularly those with a strong and independent voice. Eric Trump on Capital One lawsuit. The Trump org lawsuit comes when tech entrepreneurs and crypto essentially top shots have sought answers about debanking. Lawmakers have held at least one hearing on the matter, and the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell pledged to aid the essentially debanking efforts. Till now, the crypto debanking inquiries have focused on institutions regulated by the FDIC and the Fed. The Trump org lawsuit could essentially widen the scope to include potential bad faith oversight from the office of the OCC essentially, and Capital One's compliance. So, Trump does a big speech inside the White House. People missed the point on it. The point was regulations, openness, fairness in the legal system, and no more debanking, ending Operation Choke Point 2.0, which is all the things we wanted inside the crypto space. Straight after the White House Crypto Summit, the OCC, who was against cryptocurrencies, who told banks not to work with cryptocurrencies back in 2023, straight after the White House Crypto Summit by Trump's announcements, the most powerful man on this planet, the OCC decides to tell some federal banks they can now start working with cryptocurrencies. They can now start holding cryptocurrencies. They can start using them. That's extremely bullish. But this is why I'm saying people missed the point on the whole White House Crypto Summit. It was extremely bullish. But the market made it look like it was a negative thing. And obviously, you know who controls the market. It's not the retail section in any sort of a way, because the retail section is not coordinated enough to make the entire market across the board go red or green. So, and then straight after that, you essentially get lawsuits happening against any organization or any politician or any department in the government that tried to stop cryptocurrencies from their growth in the past. So on one side, they're bringing out regulations, and on one side, they're telling banks they can slowly start using cryptocurrencies straight after the White House Crypto Summit. And on the other side, they're suing now anyone essentially that was stopping crypto companies from working with banks in the past under Biden's administration. They're trying to get rid of corruption and bringing regulations at the exact same time. And that is what Trump is achieving. This is why I'm saying a lot of people are missing the ballpoint. And that is a Trump lawsuit against, essentially, it's a Trump org lawsuit against Capital One for closing 300 bank accounts related to blockchain companies. That's just one of them. Now, before we go through the next news, let's go start a conversation first. But this is why I kept on saying a lot of people missed the ball on the White House Crypto Summit. It was an extremely big event. But the people that control the market space, and it's not the retail section, because the retail section are not coordinated in any sort of way to make the entire market go red across the board or green, bullish or bearish. You know who's controlling the market space, because we don't have regulations. When you don't have regulations in a market space with tremendous amount of capital inside of it, it's easy to manipulate it to go either way. So the people that manipulate the market space couldn't be essentially hedge funds, it could be institutions, it could be anybody, it could be the whales. Made the crypto White House Summit look like it was nothing, when in fact it was everything. Because straight after that, OCC, positive, telling banks they could start working with crypto companies. The OCC was the same organization that told banks not to work with crypto companies. But after the White House speech by Donald Trump, the OCC tells banks to work with crypto companies. Don't miss the ballpoint. This is why I said yesterday's live. On yesterday's live, I told everybody to start looking at the crypto market space from a different perspective, because everybody's looking at it from the same perspective, which is the reason why some people get lost in the noise. If you don't want to get lost in the noise, start looking at the market space from a different perspective. Or just tune into this live, and I'll guide you on the right path. The president also gave us a tentative date on August. Yes, he did. Miles, no, I read that one already. Miles, saluting you for alternative perspectives. Let's go. Good evening, Miles, the CMF. Let's go for the XRP. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down in the comment section. Be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. My portfolio is fine. Was low to start with. Let's go, Johnny. Everyone expect for microservice doesn't have the option. My brother Brad just tweeted, can you read it and let us know your opinion? Thank you. Yes. Let me see what Brad said. Brad Gollinghouse, essentially. He tweeted out 20 minutes ago. Brad tweeted out, some weeks feels like months in crypto. This was one of them. He's talking about essentially how he was stifled for the longest time. From the White House Crypto Summit to the CFTC CEO Roundtable and the sheer amount of news announced. Hooray for essentially that. And it's been quite a few days. There's been a lot of talk about this White House. Okay, let me make it longer. There's been a lot of talks about this White House that the White House has and will prioritize with their crypto agenda. Most importantly, regulatory clarity through congressional action, as well as a Bitcoin reserve and a crypto stockpile. Support for stablecoin innovation backed by US treasuries and more. I was extremely pleased to see the incredible support from this administration. It's easy to get lost in some of the maxi-induced noise, but there is so much more to this industry that essentially the infighting and one coin versus another time-wasting theoretics is basically saying the Bitcoin maxis trying to go up against the entire crypto space is a losing battle. Even playing field is much more better. We will, as we've always done, continue to champion the need for level playing field, and it was great to hear others in the room echo this as well. And for the industry to come together to move much needed legislation forward in the US. An incredible thank you to Donald Trump for welcoming us to the White House. Amazing contrast to the hostility of Biden's administration. David Sachs, Bohemians for truly historic summit, and Caroline Pan for hosting us at the CFTC. The CFTC also did a roundtable as well. That's what he's essentially referring to. But even from Brad's perspective, this was a very historic day because it was. Brad went from battling the SEC year after year to getting XRP as the #1 crypto essentially announced in the first tweet of the crypto stockpile, and then sitting alongside the president of the United States in a crypto White House summit, the first ever White House crypto summit to be the exact date. So it genuinely was a historic day. Just most people missed the point on it. The point of the White House crypto summit was just about regulations, fairness, policies. We wanted the president to essentially explicitly and publicly say these things, which is what we wanted to hear. We finally got it. So even from Brad's perspective, this is incredibly historic. It's not just his perspective that's historic as well. A lot of his perspectives that came out from CEOs and executives saying this is a historic day. So stop getting distracted by the noise inside the market space. So that's what Brad essentially tweeted out. Hi, brother. Come on, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? So what's next, Miles, for crypto? What's next for crypto is slowly regulations, more case droppings, and a foundation to be built on for the regulations to be on top. Hi, Miles. What's next for the crypto space? That foundation, regulations, more cases getting dropped. A lot of people are looking at the tip of their nose. Facts. And XRP is going down again. Is that a bad thing? Because we know XRP is going to go up. XRP is a part of the crypto reserve of the United States of America, the biggest market space in the world. The biggest market space in the world has two executive orders. Basically, one, to become the capital of cryptocurrencies, and two, a crypto reserve. And XRP is a part of the crypto reserve of the biggest market space in the entire world. The International Monetary Fund said once, if the American market space sneezes, the world market catches a cold, which is facts. All the way around, if the American market space is doing brilliant for itself, the rest of the market space around the world will also follow their footsteps. Honestly, a lot of people are missing the point on this matter. So XRP going bad. XRP going down right now, is that a bad thing? No, not really. Because we know what's going to happen next. We know what essentially is entitled for XRP. We know what's going to be up ahead. Case getting dropped, regulations happening. It's part of the biggest crypto reserve on the entire planet, the US crypto reserve. All these are positive. Don't get distracted by noise or price action. And again, market space gets manipulated because we don't have regulations. The longer we don't have regulations, the more the market space gets essentially affected by manipulation. A regulated market space is more difficult to manipulate than an unregulated market space. Facts. As if we want crypto future, we need all these processes to come in to the matter. Facts. I'm thinking of adding to the XRP bag myself. Why not? If you want to, why not? The retail section has to understand that the market has changed. Now it is no longer performs the way it did when it was essentially only for retail. Facts. Institutions own it now, and they will dictate what happens within the space. Facts. They do. The institutions pretty much own the entire market space. They own the entire crypto space right now. Collectively together, the Bitcoin ETF space, which is BlackRock, essentially Fidelity, and 21 shares, and so on, collectively Grayscale, the Bitcoin ETF space own more Bitcoin, essentially, just about, than the founder of Bitcoin. And then you also have essentially Michael Saylor, who owns a tremendous amount of Bitcoin. The institutions have a tremendous amount of assets inside the market space, mostly towards Bitcoin ETFs. Now, the market obviously follows Bitcoin only because we don't have regulations. We don't have regulations, therefore the market follows Bitcoin's footsteps. And it's easily manipulated to go either up or down. If we get regulations, then the market will stop following Bitcoin's footsteps. At least the projects that have utility in place. Those projects will stop essentially following Bitcoin's footsteps. But yeah, it's facts. The institutions dictate the way it goes essentially right now. And it's because it's unregulated. Hello, Miles and CMF. Carol, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Lots of greedy bellies want overnight millionaires. Pretty much, yes. Facts. Now, yeah, stop getting distracted by noise. Everything that's happening, everything that Trump has done for the crypto space is extremely positive. And if the market is not showing that positiveness, it's because we don't have regulations. But that is what Trump essentially, that is what Trump is trying to achieve, the regulation part. And if it wasn't for Trump, Gary Gensler will still be the head of essentially chairman, and Ripple will still be going for this long battle. XRP will be nowhere near the price it's sitting right now. Let's just be fair to ourselves. Now, major sanctions on Russia. This is also what's weighing in on the market space, which is the sanction part of the market space. So, I'm holding for life. Let's go, Johnny. Major sanctions on Russia fuels economic, essentially, warfare. The fragile balance of the conflict in Ukraine has just experienced a new turning point. Donald Trump, the American president, mentioned the possibility of imposing massive banking sanctions and high tariffs against Russia. This statement comes as Moscow intensifies its strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure, and Washington's position wavers essentially between the conditional support for Kyiv and essentially seeking a diplomatic solution. However, the firm stance is accompanied by essentially decisions raising questions and Trump's true intentions regarding foreign policies. Trump's announcements fits into the context of heightened tensions between Russia and Ukraine. The American president today published a message on social network's Truth social platform. And he said, I'm strongly considering banking sanctions and tariffs on the large, essentially, scale against Russia until ceasefire and definitive agreements on peace are concluded. This position marks a turning point in his discourse, which until now had focused on reducing military support for Kyiv. This declaration follows a massive attack carried out by Russia against Ukrainian infrastructure involving 194 drones and 58 missiles. Such a large-scale offensive essentially particularly targets the country's energy infrastructure, worsening such an already critical humanitarian situation. In the light of these events, Ukraine President Zelensky has renewed his call for an aerial and maritime truce and hopes for a firmer response from the international community. While threatening Moscow with essentially severe economic sanctions, Donald Trump has decided to temporarily suspend military aid to Ukraine. This decision raises questions, particularly regarding the impact it could have on Ukraine's defense and capabilities at the time of Russia such a pressure is intensifying. So, what Trump is essentially doing with the Ukraine and Russia situation, which obviously impacts the market space, is on one side, Trump is saying no more money to Ukraine and no more military aid. And on the other side, he's saying to Russia, essentially, we're going to essentially sanction you further regarding your banking systems. So he's putting pressure on both Ukraine and Russia to both come to the table, sign a deal of peace, and walk away. That is what Trump is trying to achieve with this essentially situation between Ukraine and Russia. The faster this essentially situation comes to an end, the better it is for all of us, especially our energy prices will come down if you live in the EU or the UK or so on, because we buy all of our oil or essentially energy from Russia. We used to, but now we buy from India, who gets it from Russia, and we pay India twice as much. But that is essentially what Trump is trying to do. On one side, he's trying to essentially not support Ukraine in any sort of a way by providing them money or military, no more. And on the other side, he's essentially putting pressure on Russia in terms of banking sanctions to get both Zelensky and Putin to the table, sign, done deal, everybody walks away. So, essentially, meanwhile, talks are scheduled in Saudi Arabia between America and Ukraine delegations aimed at essentially exploring the peace agreements, and similar discussions had already been initiated with Russian representatives in Saudi Kingdom. Trump emphasized this diplomatic approach and directly calls on essentially to negotiate to Russia and Ukraine. Come to negotiations, essentially table now before it's too late. Thank you. If Trump's strategy relies on economic pressure meant to essentially put pressure on Moscow to negotiate, the halt of military aid could weaken Ukraine and compromises maneuvering margins. Will the Kremlin agree to yield essentially under the threat of new customs and banking sanctions, or does this hybrid approach, because it is in hybrid approach, is putting pressure on Ukraine and Russia at the same time to bring both of them to the table to sign for peace, or does this essential hybrid approach, mixing fairness and ambiguous, risk strengthening Vladimir Putin's position in this protected conflict? The coming weeks will be crucial to gauge the repercussions of this wavering American posture. Trump is genuinely trying to end the war between Russia and Ukraine. The situation is, whenever he tries to slow down Putin, Zelensky is unhappy. Whenever he tries to essentially slow down Zelensky, Putin is unhappy. So Trump came to the decision, you know what, I'm just going to stifle both of you. I'm going to put economic pressures on the banking systems in Russia, and I'm not going to support you. Essentially, I'm not going to support Ukraine with any money or military aid. So Zelensky is weak, and so is Russia in terms of their economic power. So it makes both of them come to the table. Some people are saying, well, Trump doing essentially scenarios like this, so on, it's bad for the market space because it makes the market space volatile. These are things that need to happen. It makes the market space volatile for a short period of time, but at least our energy prices come down. It's things that need to happen, because the longer this war carries on, the longer you'll be paying higher prices for gas, electrics, and so on. Now, a senior, essentially, what we're going to talk about essentially is Russia's perspective in terms of what Russia's thinking about doing. Russia is thinking about getting more involved inside the crypto space, because if economic sanctions are what's going to be happening to Russia. So Russia is thinking about going more towards crypto payments. Anywhere you share your articles, Miles, I can share them, no problem, without a doubt. Direct message me, I'll share them to you. If you want, Tware V3, direct message me, I'll share the articles, no problem. So Russia's lawmakers says essentially EU sanctions can't fully block crypto access. A senior Russian lawmaker said sanctions will not completely stop Russians from accessing the cryptocurrency markets or using it to bypass restrictions. Anton, the deputy head of state, essentially of Duma Committee on Information Policy said on Telegram, the blocking of Russia from crypto entirely is impossible. Because if Russia is going to be put under economic pressures, Russia is thinking going towards cryptocurrencies. But then the EU is saying, they can't go towards crypto because we'll block them in that way too. How? Is what Russia's wondering on. So he acknowledged essentially that digital assets will remain a key tool for sanctions, but noted that USDT is no longer a reliable option. Isn't that interesting? Even Russia is thinking about moving away from USDT. So first, it was the EU essentially that moved away from it was the EU that moved away from USDT. Canada moved away from USDT a while ago through some exchanges, but then the EU moved away from USDT, and now even Russia themselves have came out and said that they don't see USDT as a reliable option anymore. Russia don't see USDT as a reliable option. And his comments following essentially fresh EU sanctions on the Russian crypto exchanges, Grantex, which essentially was already blacklisted by the US in April 2022. The EU cited essentially Grantex's ties to sanctioned Russian banks as a reason for the latest restrictions. There was a crypto exchange, a Russian crypto exchange. So, you would have Binance, for example, for the West, or Crypto.com, or Coinbase and so on for the West, or Uphold, which is a UK essentially based exchange that operates in the US and so on. Russia had their own version of a crypto exchange, which essentially was connected to a lot of banks. Those banks got sanctioned, and so did the exchange. This is what the EU essentially means by trying to stop Russia on every angle. The Moscow-based exchange dismissed the move. The Moscow-based exchange dismissed the move as a part of an ongoing Western pressure on crypto infrastructures for political essentially reasonings, predicting essentially further measures in the future. US and UK authorities are also investigating the move of $20 billion in essentially US-pegged stablecoins tethered through the Russian crypto exchange. The Russian platform was essentially sanctioned for its role in money laundering, illicit activity financing, and further ransomware attacks. Despite Tether's operations being outside the US, American regulators, through the Office of Foreign Assets and Controls, the OFAC, has mechanisms to influence the stablecoin's offshore activities. Interestingly, crypto exchange aggregator Best Change found its website blocked by Russia's communications watchdogs, but says essentially it is unclear why the restrictions was imposed. The platform, which essentially offers compromises between crypto exchange rates, confirmed that it is discussions with the central bank to resolve the issue. Best Change said essentially it didn't receive a clear explanation for the decision, but suspects it may be linked essentially to new cryptocurrency regulations or activities of third parties using essentially its services. And websites list, for example, Russian crypto exchanges are restricted, and Russia's state-run essentially RIA news agency cited the regulators say the move was due to legal violations in the financial sphere. It has not been provided further details or responded to requests for clarification. Russia keeps essentially a ban on circulating and advertising digital currencies, but it has recently eased restrictions on certain crypto-related activities. Cryptocurrency mining was essentially legalized last year, for example, in Russia, with authorities introducing tax essentially measures expected to generate up to $200 billion, so up to 200 billion rubles, which is about $2 billion. Annually. However, mining essentially has been restricted in some Serbian regions to prevent power shortages. Additionally, Russia permitted the use of cryptocurrencies for international trade, allowing businesses to bypass essentially Western sanctions that have caused delays in cross-border payments. Despite the legal framework essentially being in place, the official trial period for crypto-based trade sanctions has yet to begin. So, Russia essentially getting stifled by America's new sanctions that could possibly be on top of them, which is economic sanctions in a banking crisis situation, have decided to lean more positively towards cryptocurrency transactions. But interesting enough, Russia has decided to move away from USDT because it's no longer a reliable essentially currency for them to be using. Due to a lot of Russian money on USDT being frozen on different accounts is why one of the reasons why Russia has decided to move away from USDT. But in general, Russia is about to open its doors to more cryptocurrency activity. due to the economic sanctions situation that's going on. Or a better solution for Russia, maybe Putin and Zelensky can come to the same table, sign a piece of paper, and they both get to walk away. And the next thing that will happen is no more sanctions on Russia. That's also an option for Putin and Zelensky, if they want to take it. Hope they do. I mean, to be fair, we know they're going to anyways, because Trump puts a lot of pressure on people. And that's a good thing. This world needs a firm hand, genuinely. The world needs a firm hand, and that firm hand essentially is Trump, to guide people on the right path. Hello, Miles and CMF. Carol, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? By the way, as I said previously as well, let's go inside the comment section first before I read out the next news. As I said previously, this is a live, which means essentially if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. So, before we go through the next news, which is regarding Cardano, Brazil, and a mega foundation, let's go inside the comment section first. Lots of greedy bellies, 1 over 9 million facts. I'm holding for life. Let's go. Until regulations, institutions will carry on manipulating the market and fill their boots. Easy money for them. Facts, John, I agree 100% regarding institutions filling their pockets and filling their boots as much as they can inside the market space, because main concern, we don't have regulations, which is easy market space to manipulate it. But every time they essentially, this is what I said yesterday's live as well. I said, you know how the game is played. So everyone knows, if you've been inside the crypto space for the longest time, you should know by now how the game is played. If you're inside a legitimate crypto asset sector, if you're inside of meme coins, different gameplay. But we're talking about, in this sense, the legitimate part of cryptocurrencies, the utility tokens and the crypto reserves, or the American crypto reserves and so on, American crypto projects. So if you're inside of the legitimate part of crypto sector, you know how the game is played. The game is played in the sense of, you know what projects you're holding, you know about their contracts, you know what they're going to achieve later on the regulations, because regulations equals to adoption in terms of utility. So if you know your crypto project has an immense amount of contracts, an immense amount of licensings, and is a part of a US crypto reserve, every time the institutions, the hedge funds, and essentially anybody else that decides to manipulate the market space as a coordinated level, which makes the entire market space go bearish or bullish within seconds, the entire market space, you know how the game is played. The market space goes bearish, you know what to do. If you have, you can essentially go back inside the market space and dip your toes even more into the crypto projects. You know about their contracts, you know about their licensings, you know they're going to do well as time moves by. So as long as you know how the game is played, you can always look at the market from a different perspective. The perspective that most people, not you, John, just in general, the perspective that most people look from when it comes to the market space is, oh, I can't believe they manipulated the market space again. I can't believe the institutions are manipulating the market space. I can't believe, the hedge funds are doing this to us. Why is it all bearish all of a sudden? Why am I losing money all of a sudden, and so on? And instead, you should be looking at the other perspective of the market space, which is SEC, pro-crypto, dropping cases one by one, executive order for America to become capital of cryptocurrencies, reserve in terms of crypto stockpiles, OCC telling banks to use cryptocurrencies, Morgan Stanley essentially getting the entire client base, retail and institutional clients inside the crypto space, Citibank getting involved in crypto tradings like Binance and essentially Coinbase, Bank of America's executives doing board meetings to help blockchain companies go public. Wall Street, that didn't want to touch the crypto space with a 10-foot pole, is helping crypto companies go public. These are all things that are happening behind the scenes. But most people want to look at the other's perspective, which is the biggest issue inside the crypto space. You need to start looking at the crypto space from a different perspective. Because the perspective that most people have is, why is the market down again? I can't believe it's down. I'm tired of this. I'm jumping up. But if you know how the game is played, for example, I hold XRP for the longest time. For the longest time. I've been inside of XRP since 11 pence. And I know XRP's contracts. I know they have licensings. I know they're going to do tremendously well on the regulations. I know that they're part of the crypto reserve of the biggest market space in the world. So every time the institutions, the hedge funds make the entire market space on a coordinated level go red, I know what to do next. I'm not sitting there going, oh, I can't believe it's bearish again. I'm tired of this, or I can't believe the institutions manipulate the market space again. I know how the game is played, and I know the end goal. of the assets that I'm holding. I know their contracts, I know their licensings, I know what levels they're going to reach. And I know what to borrow against later on to use as collateral and what to get rid of later on. If you know how the game is played, you can genuinely look at the market space from a different perspective, and not the perspective of frustration, which is most people what they look through. The perspective that most people have is frustration when it comes to the market space. You should be looking at it from a perspective of opportunity always. Just understand how the game is played. We don't have regulations, therefore it's an easy market space to manipulate. On good news also. They can make good news look like bad news. Genuinely. Institutions, hedge funds, whales, they can make the essentially good news look like bad news on the market space. The first ever White House crypto summit with the President of the United States of America, the most powerful man on the planet, bringing crypto companies, CEOs, and the CFTC and the SEC in the same room to talk about openness, fairness, regulations, policies, stopping Operation Choke Point 2.0. All of this is incredible. But the people that manipulate the market space, which is the hedge funds and the whales and institutions, made that look like bad news. Because it's not the retail section that makes the entire market coordinately go red. No, it's not the retail section, because the retail section are not coordinated like that. Take a step back. Guess who's so coordinated to make the entire market space go red? On good news. To make you assume it was nothing. That was bad news. And in fact, it wasn't bad news. Straight after the White House summit, the OCC back in 2023 said to banks, don't work with crypto companies. After the White House crypto summit that happened today, straight after Trump's speech of openness, fairness, legals, policies, regulations, no more debanking. After all of that, the OCC that hated cryptocurrencies back in 2003 told banks not to work with them. Straight after that meeting, told banks, legal banks, essentially the legal framework of the banks, told them that they can start using crypto assets slowly. They can start using crypto assets and custodians, essentially holding in storages, and be able to use them. The same governmental department that told banks to not use cryptocurrencies under Biden. Straight after Trump's speech, OCC comes out and goes, banks can start using cryptocurrencies now. All these are positive, and that was because of the White House summit. But the people that manipulate the market space and make it go coordinately red made that White House crypto summit look like it was a bad thing. And in fact, it wasn't. It was a good thing. Because you need to understand the bigger picture. Honestly, a market space that nobody wanted to touch. The crypto market space was a market space nobody wanted to touch. Made it to the White House. The CEOs that were being sued in the crypto space were sitting next to the United States president with their assets in a crypto reserve in America, the same country that was suing them. So you need to see the bigger picture, honestly. Because whales, institutions, hedge funds, they love manipulating the market space. And they can make good news look like bad news to distract you. Because they make the entire market space red across the board. And you think that was bad news. And in fact, it wasn't. You know, when it comes to the market space, it's not just about the news and the contracts and the licensings and the announcements. It's also a bit of psychological. There's a lot of psychological warfare inside the market space, which a lot of people get confused about. And then they start going on the wrong path and having bad perspectives and getting essentially led down the wrong path. Start looking at the market space from a different perspective. Because the people that control the market space when we don't have regulations can make good news look like bad news, which will change your perception. Because this was good news, but they made it into bad news with the prices. And people thought it was bad news. And it wasn't. It was brilliant news. Most powerful man on the planet comes out, talks positively about cryptocurrencies. Openness, fairness, regulations, banks can work with crypto. Straight after, the OCC goes, banks can work with crypto. Same organization that hated crypto. This is what honestly, you need to realize the level of psychological warfare that's happening inside the market space as well, because it's crazy. And everybody gets lost in that. A lot of people get lost in that. Because genuinely, they can make good news look like bad news by dropping the market space. Because that was good news. But they made it look like bad news. Stop getting distracted by the noise. And focus. If you know how the game is played, you know your assets, you know what their future is going to be, you know about their contracts, you know about their licensings, then what do you worry about? Now, anywhere you share your articles, Mars, yes, I'll definitely email. I saw notifications on X. I think you direct messaged me right now or something. I'll send it to you, no problem. All the articles I read up. You could have been a therapist, Miles. Maybe. Happy Pisces, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Or facts. Let's go, Ray. It's facts. Genuinely. Now, Cardano's foundation. Cardano's foundation sphere drive blockchain integration in Brazil's public sector. Cardano has just opened itself to the Brazilian market space in a way. So here it is. The Cardano Foundation has entered a strategic alliance with Brazil's cervical federal, essentially, department to accelerate blockchain adoption across federal agencies. This partnership focuses on deploying decentralized solutions and enhancing digital literacy through specialized training programs. You know how Cardano was able to land Brazil governmental department? Because Cardano got themselves on a US crypto reserve. The biggest market space in the world has added Cardano to their crypto reserves, which means that Cardano can go around and leverage that reputation to land themselves contracts now. This is what I'm saying. It's extremely bullish and positive. But they can make the institutions, the whales, and so on, and hedge funds, they can make good news look like bad news by dumping on the market space, which makes people's perception think that, oh, this is bad news. And in reality, it isn't. Because Cardano is going around leveraging their name now. It's not a bad thing that Cardano is doing this. Good to them for leveraging their name and their reputation. Brazil's largest state-owned IT enterprise, Sphere, supports 90% of the federal administration IT infrastructure, processing 33 billion annually transactions and managing over 30.4 petabytes of data across cloud platforms. The collaboration aims to integrate Cardano's blockchain technology into public sector's workflows, targeting improvements in transparency, auditability, and operational efficiency. Our collaboration with Sphere, it represents essentially a transformative step in the modernization of Brazil's public sector infrastructure through education and blockchain and technology. A core component essentially of this initiative involves the Cardano Academy, which will deliver essentially blockchain education. The Sphere essentially staff through masterclasses, technical essential workshops, and certification courses. Frederick, essentially, the CEO of the Cardano Foundation, emphasized the alliance role in advancing decentralized governance frameworks. Alexandra, Sphere's president, stated the initiative positions Brazil as a leader in the public sector modernization via blockchain-driven solutions. Brazil ranks essentially second globally in terms of digital governance maturity per the World Bank metrics. And Sphere central to this achievement, this marks Sphere's essentially first international educational partnership, while the Cardano Foundation previously collaborated with the Brazilian essentially energy firm in December 2023 on essentially a blockchain pilot for resources and traceability. The Cardano Sphere partnership underscores the growing interplays between regulatory developments and digital asset valuations. By prioritizing blockchain education and infrastructure upgrades, the initiative seeks to establish scalable use cases for decentralized protocols in public administrations and potentially influencing global approaches to government digitalization efforts. Cardano just became a part of a company in Brazil, and that company works for the government. 90% of the government's data goes through this company in Brazil, and Cardano is now their partner to bring them to the blockchain space. How did Cardano land this contract? Because Cardano could have never landed this contract in the past. They landed this contract because their name, ADA, is essentially their ticker, is in essentially the US reserves. They're using that as a leverage, which they should do in all means. I'll be very honest. But the point is, that's a positive. The crypto reserve and so on is a positive because institutions are leveraging their names to land themselves partnerships for their chains. And people inside the crypto sector from the retail section think the crypto reserve means nothing. But when you have Cardano leveraging their name to land a Brazilian government contract, a company that handles 90% of their data, Cardano is using that ticker essentially being a part of the crypto reserve of the United States market space, which is massive. Retail section thinks the crypto reserve means nothing. But Cardano uses that exact same piece of news to land themselves a government contract. This is why I'm saying you need to start looking at the market space from a different perspective. Stop getting distracted because they can make good news look like bad news. Genuinely, hedge funds, whales, all these types of essentially high-profile investors can make good news inside the market space look like bad news by dropping the entire market space on a very coordinated level across the board, all red. And you think it's bad news. It's not bad news, it's brilliant news. And JP Morgan publishes a report on essentially street cryptocurrency reserves. Is XRP sole ADA reserves? Essentially regarding what's going to be happening. The cryptocurrency market is facing ongoing skepticism regarding the feasibilities of the US street crypto reserve. According to a recent research report by JP Morgan, analysts suggest that the lack of positive essential catalysts on uncertainty over congressional approvals may keep the market under pressure. What they're essentially talking about is the regulation part of the market space. JP Morgan's analysts, led by Nicholas, noted concerns not only about Congress approving such a reserve, but also essentially about the practicality of including smaller tokens beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum. Given that these alternative, essentially cryptocurrencies, are considered highly volatile and risky, it is uncertain whether they would be included in the government's backed reserves, which now has been confirmed. However, JP Morgan's reports notes that the similar discussions at a state level have largely failed to gain traction. It is true, a few American states have rejected the idea of just a Bitcoin reserve. For example, states such as Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming have all rejected proposals to include Bitcoin essentially reserves, which I reviewed about 4 days ago, citing concerns about the risk of volatility. The skepticism extends beyond the US, as central banks around the world have largely rejected the idea of holding just one crypto asset, because it's a stupid idea to put all your eggs in one basket. Even though Bitcoin maxis will go around and tell every organization on this planet that Bitcoin is the only solution and they should only buy Bitcoin, rule number one of investing, not financial advice in any sort of way, never put all your eggs in one basket, which is what Michael Saylor realized at the White House Crypto Summit. And the National Bank of Poland have also both rejected Bitcoin due to its speculative nature and opting for more stable assets like gold. Makes a lot of sense. Even though people like to compare gold and Bitcoin as if they're on the same path, in reality they're not. Gold is a genuine risk-off asset, while Bitcoin pretends to be a risk-off asset. And you get the picture. But now, policy advocates is what we're going to talk about next. Moving on from essentially JP Morgan's perspective on the market space to policy advocates. And by policy advocates, I'm talking about right now the Bitcoin maxis. So the crypto reserve comes out and says they're not buying any more Bitcoin, which I completely understand. 100% understand. Why would America need to buy more Bitcoin when they have a tremendous amount of Bitcoin already seized? Now, some people may argue the point of essentially America needs to, the Bitcoin maxis will argue the point that America needs to be ahead of everybody else. They need to own a tremendous amount of Bitcoin, need to be the king of Bitcoin, and so on and so on. Everybody keeps on forgetting about, I don't know, maybe the unknown owner of Bitcoin. The man who owns a tremendous amount of Bitcoin can dump it at any moment in time. He can dump it in 10 years' time if he wanted to. Which is why America has decided to not waste taxpayers' money on a speculative asset, which is what it is. And I know the Bitcoin maxis don't want to hear that, because the Bitcoin maxis compare gold and Bitcoin on the same path. And in reality, they're not. Because as I explained a few nights ago and a few weeks ago, if Ukraine and Russia and America, for example, go into war tonight, if America and China, let's just say the US and China go to war tonight, what's going to happen to Bitcoin? It's going to go down. But isn't Bitcoin a risk-off asset? No. Because that just proves it's not a risk-off asset. What's going to happen to gold? If America and Russia go to war tonight, what's going to happen to gold? It's going to go up. Why? Because it's a real risk-off asset, safe haven. Whereas Bitcoin will pretend to be a safe haven. So this is why the US has decided not to purchase any Bitcoins or use taxpayers' money to buy Bitcoin. Because even though we gave Bitcoin the titles and the categories of risk-off asset and digital gold, in reality, it's neither. What is good inside the crypto space is the utility part, which unfortunately Bitcoin lacks that too. The only thing Bitcoin has is limited supply. Sorry to say to everybody, if anybody out there is a Bitcoin maxi, but the only thing it has is limited supply, which can be increased apparently according to JP Morgan, because they couldn't promise to their client base that they can, essentially guarantee the supply of Bitcoin will stay forever the same. But this is where other cryptocurrencies will prevail a lot more and do a lot more better, like XRP, XLM, HBAR, Cardano, Solar. So a lot of crypto assets will do a lot more better on the regulations due to the utility factor, which lacks from Bitcoin. And so this is what I mean regarding Bitcoin and so on. And why am I mentioning all this? Because the Bitcoin maxis are not happy. The Bitcoin maxis wanted the US to buy Bitcoin, a speculative asset that pretends to be a digital gold and pretends to be a risk-off asset. In reality, it's a risk-on asset and a speculative. And a founder that's unknown. These are all the facts about Bitcoin. And some people don't like hearing them, especially Bitcoin maxis, because as you know, there's a reason why people essentially don't like the truth, because it hurts. So this way, policy advocates suggest, this is genuine news. It's not a joke, it's genuine news. So because the US said we're going to just use the seized Bitcoin and forget about buying Bitcoin, policy advocates, Bitcoin advocates, suggest the US to sell cheese, US cheese reserve, actual US cheese reserve to buy Bitcoin. So Bitcoin maxis came to the conclusion of the US should sell its cheese reserves to buy Bitcoin. This is the level of deludedness that's going on in the Bitcoin maxis world. Cheese reserves. The Bitcoin Policy Institutions, BPI, has suggested that the US authorities sell its cheese reserves and use the proceeds to buy Bitcoin instead. What are the Bitcoin maxis going to suggest next? America should sell all of its cows. Who needs beef? America should sell all of its lambs. Who wants to eat lamb? This is the level of deludedness they're on. They're saying sell food supply to buy Bitcoin. I wasn't aware I can make a steak out of Bitcoin. This is just how deluded it gets. The BPI said that Bitcoin is a better long-term investment than cheese. The group argued that Bitcoin holds its value better over time and will make a smarter investment choice for the US government. Genuinely, this is what they're suggesting. Currently, the US has between 1.4 billion and 1.5 billion pounds of cheese in storage, worth around $3.4 billion. The US government has been storing cheese in cloud storage, especially in cold storage facilities nationwide for years, as a part of a program to help dairy farmers when prices drop. The US has a huge amount of cheese to help farmers. Bitcoin maxis is saying, forget about the farmers, sell the cheese, and let's buy some Bitcoin. Honestly, if it was up to the Bitcoin maxis, they would start selling parts of America to buy Bitcoin. This is the level of delusion they're on, Bitcoin maxis. It was bad enough the Bitcoin maxis actually believe Bitcoin is gold, on the same level as gold. It was bad enough they believe that. But now they get to a level where they're saying, sell food supply in the US. Let's just sell the food supply and buy Bitcoin. Thank God genuinely, thank God, nobody from the Bitcoin maxi space has become anywhere near essentially in terms of becoming president of the United States. Otherwise, the Bitcoin maxis genuinely would have sold off the US to buy Bitcoin. However, critics say that it's not the best use of the money. You don't say. Maybe a country shouldn't sell its food supply to buy Bitcoin. Matthew, for example, a research expert at investment firm, Vanik, agreed with this sentiment. He questioned why the government still holds so much cheese when it could invest in something more valuable. You can see the level of moronicness that's going on. Matthew, who's also a very, very big Bitcoin policy institution head, suggests other ways for the US to buy more Bitcoin in recent posts. He thinks the government could use extra cash, gold reserves, foreign currencies, or money from selling government-owned businesses. Selling government-owned businesses to buy Bitcoin. Or selling gold to buy Bitcoin. This idea comes from President Donald Trump's announcing the strict Bitcoin reserve initiatives alongside the crypto stockpile. This plan aims to essentially increase the US government's Bitcoin holdings without using taxpayers' money. So the Bitcoin Maxi's big, bold, innovative idea is not to use taxpayer money to buy Bitcoin, but instead sell the food supply of the US to buy Bitcoin. Genuinely, the level of delusion is just crazy. For somebody to even come out and say, let's not use taxpayer money. Okay, if you don't want to use taxpayer money to buy Bitcoin, fair enough. Let's just sell the food supply of the US and buy Bitcoin. A food supply of cheese, let's just sell that. Because I guarantee you, if they sell the cheese supply of Bitcoin, essentially the cheese supply of the US, next the Bitcoin maxis will say, let's just sell all the chickens inside the US. Let's just sell all the cows in the US. Let's just sell all the lambs in the US. Are the Bitcoin maxis planning on living on oxygen or eating oxygen at one point? Genuinely, the level of craziness that goes on in the heads of Bitcoin maxis, I don't know what's happening in their brains. Selling cheese to buy Bitcoin might sound unusual or deluded. There is no official plan to sell the cheese, essentially, so far, but the idea has came about from Bitcoin maxis. And is getting more attention from the government. Many people are waiting for news, essentially, to see what is going to be the next step of, are they just going to continue holding the US Bitcoin reserves? Yes. The seized Bitcoin is more than enough for the US to hold. You know why? Because BlackRock already holds a tremendous amount. BlackRock already holds a tremendous amount of Bitcoin. It's an American institution. Grayscale holds a tremendous amount. MicroStrategy owns the American institutions already hold a tremendous amount of Bitcoin. That's more than enough, and they're all American institutions. So the US holds their seized Bitcoin. That's more than enough, genuinely. But selling food supply to buy Bitcoin is the most stupidest idea to come to mind. Now, NASDAQ is what we're going to talk about next. Before we talk about that, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. But yeah, I couldn't believe it. When I saw this news, I thought, this is just low. You know, I never thought the Bitcoin maxis will steep this low to sell food supply to buy Bitcoin. They're not food supply for themselves, to sell the nation's food supply to buy Bitcoin. Good evening, Miles and CMF family. Thompson, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Just got home from work. Let's go, Thompson. Maybe after this parabolic bull run cycle, hopefully I would not have to work anymore. Let's go, Thompson. I have 200,000. Which crypto should I invest in? Not invest. Research into XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, Cardano. Research. Don't buy anything you don't understand. Never. No financial advice in any sort of a way. USDT is a fraud and is a bloody attached to Bitcoin. Yeah, pretty much. Even Russia decided not to use USDT anymore. That's going to be quite interesting. Absolutely crazy. Definitely. Thanks, but I don't know if I should go for Bitcoin or something else. It's only because Bitcoin maxis are lactose intolerant. It's because Bitcoin maxis are lactose intolerant, probably. Hey, everyone. Good to see you as well, Custom. How you doing? How you been? Happy Friday, Miles and CMF. Peg. Good to see you. How you doing? Happy Friday. What's the difference in the other markets? What's in them? Good evening, CMF. Elf, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? What's the difference in the other markets? What's in them? Curtis, elaborate on what you exactly mean so I can have a better idea. What's the difference in the other markets? What's in them? Elaborate on it, Curtis. While you elaborate on it, let me give everyone the next news, which is the NASDAQ. Now, it was mentioned a while ago that the NASDAQ is planning on going 24/7, which are essentially indications that the stock market, is slowly tiptoeing into the idea of getting tokenized. Because if the NASDAQ is thinking about going 24/7, it's on the path to tokenization. Because that's what tokenization is going to be about, 24/7 market space. A 24/7 tokenized market space. So here it is. NASDAQ announced today that it's seeking regulators' permission to expand trading hours on the NASDAQ stock market, the world's biggest stock exchange. The exchange wants to launch a 24-hour trading Monday through Friday. The stock exchange plans to submit filings seeking approval from regulators on Friday, according to a source familiar with the NASDAQ plans. They require the Securities and Exchange Commission to sign off before moving ahead with the plan. NASDAQ revealed its ambitious plan, never done by a major, essentially US exchange operator, to introduce stock trading around the clock. The firm is asking regulators to allow it to offer 24-hour stock trading Monday through Friday. In a blog post essentially published today, the NASDAQ president, Tal Cohen, said that his company could soon offer trading 24 hours a day on its main stock exchange and the NASDAQ stock market. We are excited to share that NASDAQ has essentially begun engaging with regulators and market participants and other essentially key stakeholders with a view to enable 24-hour trading 5 days a week on the NASDAQ stock market, which means the stock market will also become volatile very soon, but obviously, stable itself through. Cohen said that the firm's timeline was essentially pending regulatory approvals and alignments with critical, essentially, industry infrastructure and providers. He also anticipates that the approval will be essentially in the second half of 2026. The company's president acknowledged that the expanding trading hours could present a challenge for the financial services industry. He argued that the issue is essentially related to the risk management, trade surveillance, and essentially ensuring Apple liquidity must be addressed. Cohen said that he was not certain that the stock exchange would have secured approval from regulators as of Friday, and Brian, essentially Blue Ocean Technologies LLC chief executive and president, said that he wasn't surprised NASDAQ was getting into 24-hour trading. I'm surprised essentially they're doing it so late in the game though. Haidman also noted that trading volumes in extended trading hours had also grown, and that a recent essentially NYSE study found that the average daily volume of essentially our trading had increased from around 700 million shares in 2021 to more than 1.7 billion shares as of January 2025. He believes that this number will continue to grow into the tens of billions over the next essentially few years, especially if more exchanges enable 24-hour trading. The exchange followed the New York Stock Exchange essentially to make plans to expand trading in overnight sessions, and which essentially stretches from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. Eastern Time. The New York Stock Exchange, owned by essentially Intercontinental Exchange, Inc., ICE, in other words, announced plans in October to allow customers to trade 22 hours a day on its electronic Aqua essentially exchange from 1:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So New York Stock Exchange has extended essentially its hours to get the vibe of, if it's a good idea for a stock exchange to be going on these types of levels of a 24/7 market space, slowly getting there. And the stock exchange received approval from the SEC back in February that it could allow to move forward. Chief essentially product officer at the New York Stock Exchange, John Herrick, highlighted essentially that the exchange was awaiting approval from the Securities and Information Processor, the SPI committee, before essentially moving forward. The committee includes exchange groups, FINRA, and industry essentially advisors who govern the data feeds, use the process, and consolidate the bid essentially as quotes. The firm's official experts are to begin offering 22 trading hours essentially somewhat this year. And Herrick argued that the exchanges still needed to take at least 1 hour break once a day to clear the trades and perform system maintenance. Well, if the stock exchange goes towards tokenization, then they don't need to take an hour break to perform system maintenance and so on, because it's on the blockchain. The US market has had normal trading hours set at 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday to Friday, since 1985. And the stock exchange has maintained that time since the New York Stock Exchange shifted the opening bell in half an hour earlier from 10 a.m. over the essentially years. And the US essentially exchanges have also offered a pre-market and aftermarket tradings. And exchanges stop their essentially pre-market sessions around 4 a.m. Eastern Time, which runs through the opening bell, which essentially began the aftermarket sections to closing bells, which last until 8 p.m. Now, we can go on and on about their hours and so on, but the Depository Trust and Clearing Essentially Corp also expanded its clearing services hours to 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time back in September, and the firm now set its clear tradings entities of 22-hour tradings envisioned by the New York Stock Exchange. The New York Stock Exchange is about to essentially go and do tradings of 22 hours Monday to Friday, keeping 1 hour for clearing their maintenance systems and so on. And some electronic brokerages have also been pushing the stock exchange space to allow customers to trade certain products around the clock. Companies including Robinhood Markets, for example, Charles Schwab's, and Interactive Brokers Group are offering extended and overnight trading hours for some stocks and ETFs. In my point of view, this is the steps that essentially is we're getting to a stage of tokenization. The stock market that's been always the same since 1985, pretty much since 1985, so I was correct. The stock market since 1985 has pretty much operated the same way, with some minor changes here and there. Now, because of blockchain technology, the stock market that's been operating since 1985 is thinking about, going 24 hours. 24 hours will lead to the stock market going tokenized due to that 1 hour span time that they want to take a break to clear maintenance systems and so on. They don't need to do that if they're tokenized. And if you ever wanted an indication of how close the stock market is to getting tokenized, well, they're just about to be entering the 24/7 market spaces. I mentioned this a while ago when it was just an idea, but now they get into a stage where it's just filings are happening for a 24/7 market space to be opening up. Now, what we're going to be talking about next, because that's extremely bullish regarding the stock market getting tokenized, there's a tremendous amount of capital right there. Fed chairman is what we're going to talk about next. The Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, is speaking. And here is what he says at critical crossroads. The Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, speaks at the 2025 U.S. Monetary Policy Forum at the University of Chicago, both School of Business in New York. So, the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, did a speech at a higher education level. And essentially, this is what he said in his speech. And Jerome Powell can make the market go in any direction just by saying good morning when he does his big speech on the market space in terms of interest rates and so on. So this is what was mentioned in terms of bullet points from the speech that Jerome Powell did at his higher education institution in New York. He said, the Fed is in no rush to adjust interest rates. The labor market is solid and generally balanced. Inflation is slightly above 2% target, but it is gradually approaching it. Uncertainty about the Trump administration policies and their economic impact remains high. Some recent essential inflation expectation surveys and market indicators have shown increases due to tariffs. Most long-term inflation expectations remain stable and consistent with the 2% target. The Fed is fully essentially prepared to wait for clearer pictures. The net effect of trade, immigration, physical, and regulatory policies is essentially the factor that has the greatest impact on economic monetary policies. The Fed's policies is not set in stone. If inflation progresses, policy may essentially remain restrictive, or if the labor market weakens unexpectedly or inflation declines unexpectedly, policy may be eased. Despite essentially high uncertainty, the US economy is in good shape. The path to achieving a 2% inflation target will be bumpy. The Fed will not overreact to one or two economic data reports that are higher or lower than expected. And recent essential indicators point to a possible slowdown in consumer spending and increased uncertainty. It remains to be seen how these developments will impact future spendings and investments. The Fed Jerome Powell retweeted that the 2% inflation target is not the focus of the Fed's framework review. The results of the review will essentially be released in late September. And US short-term essentially interest rates futures maintain their forecast that the Fed will cut interest rates in June and expect a total essentially of 3 rate cuts in 2025 after Jerome Powell said the Fed did not need to rush to act. So expect at least 3 rate cuts this year, minimum. Which is a cherry on top. Now, what we're going to be talking about next, moving on from Jerome Powell's speech. So you have a better picture of where Jerome Powell still stands. He believes in the idea that we don't need to do too many rate cuts, that we're getting close to that inflation target, and that the US has a very strong labor market space, and that, you know, tariffs do cause volatility in the market space, but it's short-term volatility, not long-term volatility in any sort of a way. Everything he said is pretty much on point. But he did say if things do change, and obviously expect a lot more essential interest rates, so if things change for the better, expect a lot more less interest rates. Now, Ripple is what we're talking about next. So moving on from Jerome Powell to Ripple. Ripple's court case sparks debate on paying penalties with XRP. So as we all know, the SEC is dropping cases left, right, and center, but the Ripple case is still not being dropped. And there are 2 reasons why that hasn't been dropped. One, Gary Gensler said they appealed the case last minute before he left, which creates a bit of a confusion. 2, the securities part of XRP when it's sold to institutions needs to go away. So, in the ongoing lawsuit with the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission, SEC, the possibility of Ripple making its penalty payment using XRP has emerged. It makes sense now. So, the case originally is for Ripple to pay the $125 million in cash, in fiat. However, now that the U.S. has a crypto stockpile reserve, if XRP, essentially if Ripple pays their fees to the SEC, they reduce fees to the SEC in XRP, then America could technically use that for their reserves. So it makes sense now if they want to do. Legal expert Jeremy Hogan indicated that it may be feasible for the court-imposed $125 million fine to be paid in XRP. This consideration gained traction following essentially an executive order signed by the US president, essentially initiating discussions focused on whether the courts would allow payments in XRP. Jeremy Hogan stated essentially that in theory, paying the penalty in XRP is possible, although the court has specified that the fine needs to be in dollars, which is fair. He suggested that the alternative payments methods using cryptocurrencies like XRP could be essentially explored, and Jeremy Hogan recalled a historical precedent for where a similar situation occurred with gold, where it was a case a long time ago. Now, Hogan also pointed out that while the court might allow Ripple to pay with XRP, the SEC must also consent to these arrangements. And according to him, the SEC has not yet signaled acceptance of such an agreement. And this discussion is closely linked to the US government stance on cryptocurrencies. Well, the good thing is that Brad in the US House Crypto Summit that happened today, Brad was sitting alongside the SEC. With the potential rise, essentially in XRP's price, the US government might increase its revenue. If the government accepts XRP, new market dynamics could emerge, although this option requires through legal, essentially, and economic examinations, and the future course of this case will depend on the consensus reached between the SEC and Ripple. The possibility of Ripple paying the fines of XRP will gain clarity based on court decisions and the perspectives of involved parties. It would be brilliant, and it makes a lot of sense. If Ripple pays their fees in XRP, whatever their fees are going to be, if they're going to reduce fees, or someone can make this case go away. But it makes a lot of sense for them to essentially pay it in XRP, especially now with a crypto reserve inside the United States. And it will also show positivity towards the crypto space because XRP being accepted as legal tender to pay their fees in. Because any other court case that's been going on, the SEC has never accepted cryptocurrencies as a form of a legal tender. But if they do in Ripple's case, it shows positivity towards the case ending. It shows positivity towards XRP being accepted as a legal tender. So it'd be brilliant to see that. And it'd be perfect timing as well. XRP is a part of the crypto stockpile reserves for the United States of America. And on that note, just for reference, everything I said on tonight's live is things that everybody needs to think about, which is don't get distracted by the noise. Don't essentially be fooled by market price points, because the people that manipulate the market space when there is no regulations, that coordinately drop the market space, coordinately push the market space up, they can make good news look like bad news. They can make bad news look like good news, because how you see it is price point. That's the perception you have. If the price goes down, whatever the news it may be, It could be good news, but you will see it as bad news because the market went down altogether at the same time. So don't get manipulated. Genuinely, the market space is not all about essentially probability of where the market space is going to go, contracts, licensing, so on. All these things matter. But it's also psychology. And a lot of people need to change their perspectives. Stop getting distracted because they can genuinely make good news look like bad news by dropping the market space. And that's when the question I was asked yesterday, essentially, that when the market space essentially drops, why does the market space altogether go red? Why does the market space altogether go green is the question I was asked yesterday. That's why. Genuinely, they can make good news look like bad news. The White House Crypto Summit was brilliant news. But the people that control the market space and manipulate the market space and coordinately drop the market space made it look like bad news. And on that note, we have reached the endings of tonight's live. This was the CMF live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, this was the CMF live. And the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. And I host this live that you're watching right now. And I talk about the most recent news that's happening around the world in terms of cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, and AI. Everything you need to know regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. The disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And this was episode 276 of the CMF Live. For some reason, it says 275. It's a typo. This is episode 276 of the CMF Live. And this live show only airs Monday to Friday on X Live that you're watching right now, or on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. So if you want to tune in for episode 277 on Monday, tune in on Monday, 11:25 p.m. UK time. So good things must come to an end, which they have now. So obviously, before I do go, let's go inside the comment section first, just in case I missed out on anyone's comments. The Dow Jones on NASDAQ, why do they need two? Due to fees. It's just companies wanting their own versions of the stock market. It's just corporations, greed, making money on fees, to be fairly honest. Bitcoin equals distraction, XRP equals to distribution. Facts. Let's go, Davey. Bitcoin. Good night, Miles, and all CMF. Thank you for all the news and great live. Let's go, JP. See you on Monday, same timing as usual. Thank you, Miles. Have a great weekend. Pierce, let's go. Have a great weekend as well. See you on Monday, same time as usual. I certainly hope the market starts to tank because I want another grace period to accumulate more lunacy. Shiva, let's go, Thompson. It would be bullish if the XRP, if XRP was put into the US crypto reserve. It definitely would be. And it makes a lot of sense to do it now. Good night, Miles and CMF. Thank you. Let's go, Mike. See you on Monday, same time as usual, brother. Thompson, let's go. See you on Monday, same time as usual as well. Good night, brother. Come on. Good to see you on Monday, same time as usual as well, brother. Even market turns green. Let's go. Cali, see you on Monday, same time as usual. Night, Miles and CMF. Pablo, see you on Monday, same time as usual. All facts. Let them know, brother. Everyone, like, share, and leave a comment for support. Take care. Let's go, Ray. Facts. If anybody has already, if you've already liked this live on X, retweeted this live on X, put a comment outside the live on X, hashtag the XRP Army on X, and liked each other's comments, thank you so much to every single person who liked, retweet, and put a comment outside the live on X. And if you watch us on YouTube, thank you so much to you also for liking the live and putting a comment outside the live as well. And thank you so much to anybody that followed me during this live on X or on YouTube. If you subscribed on YouTube during this live, thank you so much. If you watch us on X and you followed me during this live as well, thank you so much as well. Thanks, Miles, for all the news. Have a good weekend. CMF, see you on Monday. See you on Monday, Orphan. Same time as usual. Good night, Davey. Let's go. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Thanks, Legend. Have a great weekend, CMF. Let's go, Shelly. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Thank you very much, Miles. Have a good night, all. Let's go, Leader. See you on Monday, same time as usual as well. Miles, there is nothing enough. There is nothing enough time to hear valid news. I guess that's why I truly appreciate your services. Thompson, thank you so much for the kind words, honestly. Till next time, CMF. Let's go, LinkedIn. Till next time. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Night, Miles and CMF. Brilliant live. As always, we thank you and appreciate the time you give us. Let's go, Joe. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Thanks again for another brilliant live stream. Greatly appreciated so much. Let's go, Thompson. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Thanks, Miles, for a great live. As normal. Let's go, Addy. See you on Monday, same time as usual as well. Good night, Miles. The weekend will be great, profitable. Let's go, Callie. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Have a good night. Let's go, Curtis. See you on Monday, same time as usual. Good night, Miles. Thanks for the live. Let's go, Michael. See you on Monday, same time as usual. I will see everybody on Monday for episode 277 of the CMF Live. We're on episode 277 on Monday. That's incredible. Episode 277. I'll see everybody on Monday, same timing as usual. Everybody have a great weekend. No matter where you are around the world, I'll see everybody on Monday, same time as usual, for episode 277 of the CMF Live, around 11:25 p.m. UK time, United Kingdom time, as always. See everybody then, same time as usual. Good night, Miles. Let's go for XL, please. See you, same time as usual. Bitcoin. Let's go, Thompson. See everybody on Monday, same time as usual. Like, comment, share, retweet, subscribe, follow. If you have already done that, thank you so much. If you haven't, go do it. See you on Monday, same time as usual.